In your statement about Ron Simoncini's unsworn statement, you say that he met with Mayor Katz at Geronimo's Restaurant April 16, 2006. I guess this is the right place for you to mention. That was Easter Sunday, and that restaurant wasn't open. And I just wonder about that. And by the way, I noticed you raised your right hand right after saying it was 2 weeks before the election. And you notice this is a little bit more than 2 weeks.
I didn't say it was 2 weeks before the election.
No, you didn't, but Marty did. I just want to make it clear. I want to make it clear that there are a lot of strange aspects to what's been presented about Ron Simoncini and all of that. And I also want to ask you who David Friedman is, because it's part of the campaign for over a year.
You want me to answer that first question?
Yeah, you can take the word about it. I don't know if I'll get more time.
Yeah, he didn't mention at all whether the restaurant was open or not, but I would assume the restaurant would not be open.
He owned the restaurant.
Michelle owns the restaurant, so I would assume.
I just want to ask you who David Friedman is, because as you know, it's been a campaign for well over a year.
I'm sorry?
There's been a David Friedman, a person who has never been located, who wrote a letter in the Suburbanite, or for whom a letter was created, who claimed that he was an Orthodox Jew. Nobody knows who he is. And he then said things that the council members refused to admit their questionable actions to get elected, and that they were arrogant. And he said the worst kept secret in the Orthodox community is that the team of Fight, Rudolph, Gusson were encouraged to run for office by Mayor Katz, and then by further vote elected mayor late on a Saturday night. And he says, I call all 4 of my fellow Orthodox Jews to admit their illicit activities, step down, yada, yada, yada. And this is just one piece and a campaign going on for well over a year.
What's your question?
Well, my question is, who's David Friedman? And is it
I don't, the question, the answer is I don't know David Friedman. I looked him up in the phone book myself and I couldn't find it. I have no idea who David Friedman is. If anybody knows, help us out. Yes.
What do you mean by forfeit? If the person is removed, is there going to be another election or an appointment, or what happens with forfeit?
If the candidate forfeits, the position is open, and then you have a special election. And there are rules as to when the election opens up. If it's so many days before the next election, you can appoint somebody. If it's more than that, you have a special election.
I'm one of the other councilmen, and I just had 2 questions for you guys, because you were the ones who had looked at the file. The first one is, it seems strange to me that the prosecutor opened the file to you. I'm just wondering if you have any idea if that's a standard practice, or if you have any idea why they might have done that.
I was a prosecutor for 5-6 years in the 70s, and that never happened when I was a prosecutor. I thought it was very unusual that we were permitted to come look at the file. And I don't know what the motives of the prosecutor were, because we're not bound by any confidentiality rules, since there was no grand jury investigation panel, there's no grand jury confidentiality, and we were not bound by anything. So to me, it's my opinion now, it's nothing more than my opinion. It looked like he wanted us to see this because he didn't want to charge anybody. He wanted this to be a political issue, and it worked out in the Teaneck community.
And the second question is regarding the 4 emails that were allegedly sent from El Natan to Ron Simoncini. Were copies of those Word documents available in the file?
Yeah, I mentioned it before. They did bring the Word documents to the file, and we saw the 4 Word documents in the file itself. They're still available. I think one of the newspapers in town is trying to get copies of those documents under the Open Public Records Act.
What Ron and I did was we took the Word document in the file, and we each read one of the offending ads, and they were word for word exactly the same as they were eventually, without the graphics and the color and everything else. But they were dated about a week or 2 before these came out in the mail, but word for word.
We've asked the prosecutor, amongst other things, to subpoena the email records and the computer files of all the various people involved. And we don't know if they did it or not.
in following this, if you wouldn't want to somehow or other think that the kind of fraudulent election material that was sent out, the illegal election material that was sent out, if that isn't part and parcel of, shall we say, the blog culture that we are now living in, where people can say anything they want on blogs, where some gentleman who doesn't have his name wrote a letter in which they accused me of fabricating these things. I never saw them until tonight. Of fabricating these, of getting money for having written a letter. Obviously, I don't know who wrote it. It's part of the blog culture. Anyone can say anything, and there isn't very much.
Did you all hear that comment? Ms. Rosenbluth was wondering whether these anonymous literatures are part of the blog culture. I think it's a point, but I would make the distinction that the blog culture does not have a statute making that illegal.
And I had a question. Do you feel that the individuals that you mentioned did commit something wrong? Do you want to say that they actually did do something illegal? Do you feel that they didn't? Will you state your opinion based on what you read in the file? And the second thing is, based on your opinion as a lawyer, can the public, after the investigation is closed, which is my understanding now it is, have access to the file now that nothing is pending?
The first one asked me for an opinion, and I said at the beginning, if you remember, it's so long ago, that I would not give my opinion. My purpose here tonight is to be a reporter because I was permitted to see this information, and I am really reporting it to you. I think it's incumbent for everybody to have their own opinion about this based on the inferences that can be drawn. But I think you have to make that mind up for yourself. I'm not going to give my opinion.
Just for clarification, just in terms that the audience might be able to judge whether it biased your point of view, what your personal opinion is.
No, I'm not going to give my personal opinion.
Let me take the second half of the question about what, if anything, the audience can do. I mentioned it before. You all can call and write. John Molinelli, who's at the Bergen County Justice Center, 10 Main Street, Hackensack, and he's the prosecutor now, whose appointment, by the way, has been held up. He's supposed to be reappointed, but he was not, and that's he's in limbo now. There's a major political problem here. I indicated before that I think there's a lot of pressure from the Bergen County boss, and I'll tell you that this very morning at the Coach Diner in Hackensack, there was a meeting with Joseph Ferriero, the Bergen County boss, with Stanley Turretts, the Teaneck Township attorney, with Elmaitan Rudolph, Councilman Teaneck, and with two other attorneys from Joseph Ferriero's law firm. And I think that we have to put more pressure from the other side before a small group of people start the pressure from the other side.